East Idaho Newsmakers is brought to you by the Bank of Commerce, your bank of a lifetime.
This is East Idaho Newsmakers with Nate Eaton.
Welcome to East Idaho Newsmakers. Today we are talking with Brett Botelho. He has been in East Idaho for a few days visiting different schools and speaking at a few different events, and we're pleased to have you here in the studio with us, Brett, today.
Thank you.
So let's just start off by talking about a rare disease that you were diagnosed with. How old were you?
At the time, I was probably about between 9 and 10, right around there.
So about 20 years ago.
Yeah, almost 20 years ago now.
And it's called, I'm not going to try to say it, I'll just say CIDP. What does that stand for?
It stands for Chronic Inflammatory Demyelinating Polyneuropathy.
And that means?
It means that my immune system gets very confused and it attacks my nervous system. And made me really weak at times.
How did you find out that you had this very rare disease? Were you just getting sick a lot? Or?
No, I mean, it doesn't affect your immune system really. The only thing we knew is I was starting to fall. And I had a previous hip surgery, so we were like, oh, is it the same thing? So we went back to that doctor, and he's like, no, this is nothing orthopedic. Like, you need to go see a neurologist. So we did, and thankfully at the time, the doctor who we saw diagnosed it fairly quickly and was able to kind of start what we thought was the right treatment. But it was a matter the day before that we kind of really were questioning. I went to a water park and ran around for 9 hours, and the next day I kind of was like tripping, feeling weak, things that kind of just didn't sit right.
Really?
That was that quick.
And the fact that you were diagnosed so quickly, what did the doctor say, you know, this is how we treat it? Did you know right away that you might be losing your legs?
Well, the losing of the leg was eventually an indirect result of it. But no, I had no idea that would, be years down the road. But they said that it was controlled with very high doses of steroids was one, or there was this new treatment kind of just coming on to the whole technology was immunoglobulin transfusions, which is immunoglobulin from other humans, kind of like a blood transfusions. They just extract different pieces. And so we actually kind of did both, and we kind of weren't sure, but it was so new with the treatment that they didn't know how to use it, how to really administer it, when to administer it. They kind of knew that it showed improvement, but they didn't. So yeah, I went on very, very high doses of prednisone, and it put me on a fast track in my weight gain and, eventually gaining close to 100 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did it help, the disease?
Yeah, it did. I mean, so when I was first diagnosed with it, I was young, and we caught it right away. So, I had this little episode, but then with the medicine and everything, I mean, within a few months, I was back playing competitive baseball. And then we got very low on the medicine, and then it kind of started to come back again. So we did the same thing, and it wasn't working. And we noticed, we kind of were following up on this immunoglobulin transfusion just because it was new, it didn't have a lot of side effects. And so every time I'd get weak, we would go do that. And it would kind of help, and then it wouldn't. But then eventually, one time, a couple times it wasn't working. So we had to kind of leave that away and just really, really increase, like I said, the prednisone to a lot. And that worked. And then over time, we were like, okay, the side effects are way too bad for the prednisone. Like, we just need to get off, regardless of the outcome. And so we did, but then that's when the disease really hit. And we were like, well, let's just see if it kind of corrects itself. And we didn't do too much on it, and that's, like I said, eventually what paralyzed me from my neck down for close to 2 years.
Holy smokes, how old were you?
So the first time I was shortly after, maybe 11, 10 and a half, 11, and then the next time was like between like 12 and 13. There was a long 9-10 month span, and then a short little break that I kind of got some stuff back, and then again for another 9-10 months.
So you kind of said, forget the steroids, the side effects are too much. Let's just see what happens.
Exactly.
And gradually you start losing feeling below your neck?
wasn't feeling. I had complete feeling. The nerves in the brain weren't telling each other what to do. So I would say, let's stand up, and I couldn't. I would either like try, and it was just physically too much strain. I didn't have the muscle strength to do it. Or when I'd get up, I would literally just fall back down. And so, yeah, for close to 2 years, couldn't feed myself, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't obviously walk, couldn't take sheets off me in the morning, like get dressed. It was 100% dependent on my parents.
And then what happened?
And then so it came, we had a aha type moment, and I literally choked on a potato chip because it was so weak in my throat. I couldn't even really swallow. And so we're like, all right, well, we got to change our plan. You're either going to not make it, or we got to change something. So then we did the prednisone again, and that we kicked it up even higher, and it worked. And for the next, I don't know, 15, 20 years, even now I'm still on a low dose, but it fixed it.
And that seems to be doing the job.
Yeah, and so it slowly allowed me to, I'd be able to lift my arm or like straighten my leg and hold it out. And every day I would do like, I don't know, 15 minutes of like just little things to try to stimulate stuff. And sure enough, over time, literally put one foot in front of the other and went from being paralyzed until, being able to stand and then walk and then eventually return to some normality. But during that time, yeah, there wasn't much we could do, but just kind of like wait to see if it worked.
Do you know how many people have this condition?
I don't. There's definitely like forums and chat rooms that we, interact with people on, but I heard it's almost like winning the lottery. So
congratulations to you.
Yeah, of course.
So have you lost both of your legs?
No, just the left leg.
And how did what led to that?
The whole, as you can imagine, for 2 years you can't walk or anything, so the bones and the muscles are just so atrophied. And it wasn't my first thought. We did multiple surgeries on both feet. The left one 2-3 times, the right one kind of the same thing, just because they were so far turned in. I was literally walking on the side of my foot. And we had these large braces that we tried to correct them, and they would not work but allow me to still walk. And so we just had the course of having this surgery. It would work for maybe 2-3 months, and then it would start to get weak again and start rolling out again. So we'd do it again, and then same thing. I'd go through physical therapy. And so that's what I kind of went through from the age of like 13 to 24, but was just, trying to fix it, allow it to fix, take advantage of the time, and then do it. So, it was painful, and I went through a lot, but I still did a lot, and still, like I always try to do, take advantage of the time I was feeling well enough.
You mentioned you played baseball before as a child.
Yeah.
So if as an athlete, being actively involved, mentally, what did it do to you knowing you can't be out running around?
Yeah, that was the worst thing. It was, when I was up until that point, I ran, I played baseball, skateboard, snowboard, everything a typical boy would do. And then it was kind of all taken away. And so I struggled, especially with baseball. I was so in love with the game for so long. And so when it happened, so many times I went back and forth in my head, like, should I continue to like watch it and go see friends, be involved with it, or just cut it out, because it like ruined me every time for quite a while. And I like would half the season I'd watch it and I'm like, no, it's too much, and then just forget about it. But then eventually I was like, whatever, I lost it. Like, I might as well, it gave me so much joy. Like back then, I might as well figure out a way to, just stay active and with that. And the same with all the other sports. I kind of was young, so I was naive and didn't really think, oh, this is going to be going on for 2 years, or how am I going to get through this? I just kind of lived in the moment, but I always was like, I think one day I'm going to be better. Like, I always kind of had that in the back of my head, so everything I kind of took in those years, I was like, when I get better, like, that's what I'm going to go do. Whether that was like falling in love with the outdoors and snowboarding from my brother, or, you know, traveling around, seeing different places, or going to new baseball stadiums, or getting things back I lost. I was like, I'm just gonna, you know, build those up, and then hopefully one day when it gets better, I'll be able to do those things.
Is there ever a time where this could be reversed?
So it is now. So it started when I was 10, and we were on all these high medicines. We didn't know because it wasn't active. I wasn't being weak. I was kind of just, everything I had was like residual. And so we didn't know where we stood. And then with a bunch of new stuff that came up this last year, we took away a lot of the medicines, and I'm fine. And so what happens over, what can happen is, especially if you get it young, it almost just burns out. So anything that I have that you see is all just from being paralyzed from 2 years, you know, back then. But there's no active attack on the nervous system. And so, I mean, that's why.
So it's all residual stuff from years ago?
Yeah, nothing's currently getting worse. In fact, it's, as much as I push my body, it will be as much as it improves.
Really?
Yeah.
So do you have a normal life expectancy?
Yeah, no, it never was a question. If we would have left it and obviously choking on potato chips, then
different story.
That's a different story. But no, it never, you know, made it lower. I still, hopefully, I live till I'm 100.
Wow, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is that how? Do you know? Is that how most people that are diagnosed with this? It's for like a set period of time.
It can be a lot of younger. So I got diagnosed 9, 10. So it usually kind of does its thing for 4 or 5 years, and then it just, like they said, burns out. So it can, and then some people live, like they try to get off the medicines, and then they'll see the attacks start to come back, and so they'll have to go on. So fortunately, I was in the category of, you know, it kind of just burned out. And whatever weakness I have is all residual, but that's not to say if I push myself, I can be stronger as, you know, I intended to be.
Mm-hmm. During your darkest days, your most trying times, how did you get through that?
Hope and God, a lot of faith, and family and friends. I mean, family, friends, and God were number one. I mean, when no one was around, I could talk to God. When my family was always there, my mom, dad, and brother, you know, through the best, through the worst, and then friends, even though, you know, they had their own life, they still kind of found time to just support me when they could. And I mean, that, and just, I think being young helped. Had it happened now, I think knowing everything, it'd be a whole different story. I think being that young, I was just, like I said, kind of naive and like, oh, okay, what's next? What are we doing tomorrow type thing. I mean, I knew it was happening, but I didn't know how it would affect my life down the road.
Yeah, so many people that go through hard times as adults say that children can handle it so much better, right, because they don't know any. They don't know any better.
They don't know any better.
So you've done some really cool things in dealing with this, and when we come back, I want to talk about the book you wrote, Standing My Own Ground, and also your snowboarding.
Yeah.
That and what you have taken as a challenge and turned into something pretty fun. So we'll be right back.
At the Bank of Commerce, we understand the hard work, determination, and sacrifice it takes to run a successful business. That's why we're here every step of the way to help make your dreams come true. The Bank of Commerce, your bank of a lifetime.
Welcome back to East Idaho Newsmakers. Today we're talking with Brett Botelho. He is quite a remarkable man, and you, just a few years ago, last year on your birthday, you said?
Last year, less than 6 months ago or so.
Released this book, Standing My Own Ground, talking about your illness and how you overcame it. What kind of gave you the inspiration to write a book?
I mean, through my whole life, people would just tell me, you should write a book. You've been through so much. And this was kind of after, you know, once I was like 15, 16, 17, you should do that. I was like, yeah, okay. Like, I always thought it'd be awesome, but I just didn't know. And so as I got older, something would happen in my life, some event that, like a health challenge, and I'd be like, yeah, that's true, I do need to write it. So I'd sit down, maybe knock a couple pages out, and then I'd just get caught up in life and get back into the routine and not look at it for 2 years. And then some other medical thing would come up, and same story. And so that kind of all happened, and it kind of followed suit. Something pretty big happened this past April, and so I was like, I got to get it out. But this time I'm serious. Like, I'm gonna do it. And I was like, I can treat it like a job. I can treat it like training. Like, I know I get it done. So I just mid-June decided to kind of sit down and write it. And I was originally gonna work with someone and have them kind of ghostwrite it, but then I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right. And so I sat down and wrote every word, and it was a long process, but I think it definitely has its benefits.
That's pretty impressive. How long have you been snowboarding?
So probably about 7 years, but those winters are not, your typical winter where you get a lot of days on snow. There may be 2 times, 3 times, just same thing, surgeries, not being strong enough or recovering from a surgery. So, but ever since I decided to have my left leg amputated, I've really taken to that, and even maybe about a year or 2 prior. But after I kind of got a hang of it, then losing your leg, you got to relearn a lot new things.
So you were snowboarding before you lost your leg?
Yeah, so in 2011 and 12, I actually made a trip here, not to Idaho Falls, but down the way a little bit to around Coeur d'Alene and Lookout Pass. And so, but then the amputation, I decided to have it done, and kind of picked it back up and have gone strong as I can every winter in it.
Were you worried when you decided to have your leg amputated that you might not be able to snowboard again?
I wasn't worried that I wasn't completely, because I had seen a lot of people who do, and that's kind of actually was a part of me being inspired or motivated to have the surgery. But I didn't think it was going to be for a very long time. I thought it would be, I had the surgery in December, definitely not that winter, and definitely not the next winter. So I was thinking, man, it could be like 3 years before this was pre-surgery nerves telling me this, before I did it, but it wasn't like that.
What was it like?
I mean, I knew what my perseverance and kind of like what I could push myself to. So less than about 2.5 months after the surgery, I was back on the mountain.
2.5 months?
2.5 months, yeah. Pretty much the length of the time to have the incision heal, get the prosthetic, walk on it for about a week or 2, and then go.
And what was that first time on the slopes like?
It was awesome because, one, I wasn't having the pain in that foot anymore, It was definitely a challenge, though, because it was not like snowboarding prior, because I did have more function and more mobility of certain things, but...
Was it like starting at the beginning again?
It wasn't like starting at the beginning. It was just learning is such a big word, and my life is adapting, learning to adapt to how I can make this happen. And I still learn today on new ways and better ways to have it function, and but yeah, it just being out there and the whole time, waiting for that, I was visualizing how it would be and what it would be, and so it was just good to be back out there.
Yeah, that was 2012?
No, so 2012 was before the amputation. This was 2014, December was when I had the surgery, and February, probably right around time now, February 15th, 20th, somewhere around there, was the first time back on the snow.
And when did you decide to maybe start competing with it?
So right after that, I had read Amy Purdy's book, and she's a big advocate and has an organization out in Colorado that just help young athletes get back into extreme sports after losing a limb, or even if they just have a physical disability. So that April of 15, right after, I went out there and visited them and was like, I just love Colorado in general. And you guys, they were all so amazing and welcoming, and that's what this organization does. It's a nonprofit, and eventually, after years, they are a Paralympic sport club and help athletes get into the Paralympic Games. And
that's what they've done for you?
I'm not in them, so I'm training with them.
You're training
with them, but the Paralympics, they follow the Winter Olympics, so they're going to be airing here in a month, or not a month, a week.
Pretty quick.
And everyone are good friends of mine, coaches of mine, roommates of mine. So it's going to be really exciting to see him there. But I mean, we're 4 years out now, so I have a goal.
You do?
Yes.
And what is the goal?
My goal would be to, be on the Paralympic snowboard team come 2022 and be representing the United States.
How cool would that be?
It would be. It'd be one of my dreams come true for sure. I do think it is going to come with a lot of work, a lot of consistency. Nothing new to me, but I definitely think that it is reachable.
Is that something that you start training for now?
Yeah.
Or is it gets closer? I mean,
No,
I guess every winter.
You're always progressing, and there's like a stepping stone type thing before you qualify, and the details of it. But I mean, I got to get my body right and be strong and healthy is the most important things, and then consistency on the snow and just learning, and then as it gets closer, start really pushing. But for me, something like this, I know when the goal is, and that's my plans. But that's not to say that things will change and I'll be doing something different in 4 years, and I'd be okay with that. But that's the hopes.
Well, we hope that happens too.
Yeah.
How cool would that be? Have you encountered any sort of bullying?
A little bit. When I was in high school, I had put on, like I said, about 100 pounds or so, and then obviously being short doesn't help, and just your typical public school, just a lot of that, a lot of stuff about the weight and height and nonsense, but nothing that was, I feel like, out of the ordinary or over, for given the circumstances.
There's going to be kids watching that are being bullied that might look different or might have excess weight or whatever. What would you say to them to overcome that, to deal with that?
Yeah. I just found a couple like true friends, that they would be by me and maybe at times stand up for me, or just, not even have to deal or associate, with the people who are not, being the best.
Mm-hmm. And you're actually going around schools here in East Idaho for a few days. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so that's what I do want to do. I mean, snowboarding is a love and a passion, but I'm okay if it becomes a hobby, and I kind of use my story to talk to the youth or anyone, just as many people as I can, and just give them inspiration and hope and, something to look forward to. And, that was kind of the point of my book. It was never for me. The book was never for me. It was the people around me that allowed me to share my story with, other people. And I always told myself, if I get rich off the book, awesome. That's not my goal. That's not my purpose. My purpose of the book is to inspire one person and help one person. And if it does, then the book has done everything that I wanted it to and hoped it would do. So anything more than that is a benefit. And I see that it has the potential to do more than a small audience. And so like I said, that's my hope, that I'd be able to travel around and speak to as big as crowd as I can that would let me, and kind of just share my story and motivate people and give them, hope.
What would you say is the biggest thing you've learned through this whole decade, the past decade or so?
Take advantage of your time. That's, for me, I don't know if it's going to be a month, a year, 2 years before something new comes up and, sets me back 2 steps. But I know today I feel good, so I'm going to do everything I can today. I'm going to go on the mountain. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to surround myself with positive people, positive things. And so just take advantage of every moment, because something might come up.
Well, you're an inspiration, Brett. We appreciate you coming in and talking with us, spending some time here in East Idaho. The name of the book is Standing My Own Ground, Getting Back Up When It Seems Impossible. Can this be ordered through your website?
Yeah, so it's on brettbotelho.com, it's on there. And then it's also on amazon.com.
Great.
Both digital and regular. And then all my social medias have links to it too.
Awesome. And we hope you're back here in about 4.5 years with your medals.
Yes.
and telling the world all about how cool you did snowboarding. And we wish you the best. Thanks for coming in and inspiring all of us.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. And thanks for watching. Have a good week.
East Idaho Newsmakers is brought to you by the Bank of Commerce, your bank of a lifetime.